Socrates once said, "I know that I know nothing," a statement so simple and yet so profound that it changed the course of human thought forever. It was not false modesty, nor a clever paradox. It was the foundation of true wisdom, the recognition that ignorance is not our enemy, but our teacher. We live in an age of knowledge. We can search for anything, learn everything, and speak endlessly. But in all this noise, something sacred has been lost, the humility of not knowing. For wisdom is not born from certainty, but from wonder. It begins not when we say, "I know," but when we whisper, "I do not." The man who believes he knows has already stopped learning. He clings to his opinions like armor, defends his ideas like a fortress, and fears being wrong more than he fears being blind. But the one who accepts that he does not know walks freely through life. He is no longer trapped by illusion. He has nothing to protect, and therefore nothing to lose. Socrates understood this better than anyone. He did not seek to fill his mind with answers, but to empty it of falsehood. His wisdom was not in what he knew, but in what he questioned. He once said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing that you know nothing." And this became the seed from which Stoicism would later grow, a philosophy not of pride, but of humility, not of grand theories, but of grounded truth. To know that you know nothing is not despair, it is liberation. It frees the mind from the weight of certainty, the ego from the illusion of mastery. The Stoics called this state ataraxia, tranquility of the soul, a peace unshaken by the unknown. We suffer not because we lack knowledge, but because we mistake belief for knowledge. We think we understand the world, and then are crushed when the world refuses to obey. We think we know what is good, and chase it endlessly, only to find it slipping away. The Stoics remind us, we are not disturbed by things, but by our opinions about things. And those opinions, if mistaken, become the architects of our misery. Ignorance, seen clearly, is not darkness, it is space. The space into which truth can enter. When you say, "I know," you close the door. But when you say, "I don't know," you open a window and light begins to pour in. Knowledge fills. Ignorance clears, and only in the clearing can wisdom grow. We live in a time where everyone must appear certain about politics, beliefs, morality, even the meaning of life. But certainty is often the loudest mask of ignorance. People shout to drown the silence of their doubt. They would rather be wrong loudly than uncertain quietly. The Stoic, however, seeks silence. He values understanding over opinion, clarity over noise. He knows that the mind that cannot say "I don't know" is the mind that can never know anything real. Ignorance, when embraced, becomes humility. And humility is the soil of all virtue. Pride blinds us to what we do not see. Humility makes us aware of it. It is better, said Epictetus, to be thought a fool and learn something, than to be praised for wisdom and learn nothing. To admit ignorance is not weakness, it is strength of character. It takes courage to stand before the infinite and say, "I am small." It takes clarity to say, "I may be wrong," and it takes discipline to keep learning long after others have stopped. Humility is not self-doubt. It is self-honesty. It is seeing clearly where your knowledge ends and reality begins. It is the quiet strength to admit that the universe is greater than your understanding, and yet still choose to live with grace inside it. Ignorance, then, is the beginning of freedom. For the more you claim to know, the more you must defend. Every belief becomes a battlefield, every disagreement a threat. But when you let go of certainty, no one can disturb your peace. The opinions of others lose their power, for you no longer need to prove yourself right. You rest not on knowledge, but on awareness, not on control, but on acceptance. The Stoics taught that peace lies not in changing what is, but in aligning yourself with it. To say I do not know is not to give up on truth, but to surrender the illusion of control. It is to recognize that nature does not answer to our understanding. We answer to it. And in that recognition, there is peace. When you accept your ignorance, you also accept your limits. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable. You stop expecting certainty from a world built on change. You no longer demand perfection from yourself or from others. Instead, you choose calm over control, understanding over judgment. Ignorance teaches humility. Humility teaches patience. Patience teaches wisdom. And wisdom teaches peace. Each day, practice this awareness. When you feel anger, ask, what false certainty am I defending? When you feel anxiety, ask, what do I think I must control that was never mine? When you feel pride, ask, what am I pretending to know that I do not? Each question softens the ego, clears the mind, and strengthens reason. Socrates practiced this every day. He asked questions not to win arguments, but to awaken understanding. When others grew defensive, he smiled, for he knew that anger is the armor of ignorance. Only those who fear being wrong resist the truth. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and Stoic, lived by the same rule. If someone can prove me wrong, he wrote, and show me I am mistaken, I will gladly change. For I seek the truth, and no man was ever harmed by it. To admit ignorance, therefore, is to become invulnerable, for no correction can shame you when you value truth above pride. We are all ignorant in some way, but most live in denial of it. They seek validation instead of wisdom, agreement instead of growth. The wise, however, choose the harder path, the daily confrontation with their own mind. They turn their gaze inward and say, here is where my work begins. Every evening, the Stoic reflects, what did I truly know today? Where did I assume? Where did I pretend? He does not ask to condemn himself, but to refine himself. Because each day lived in awareness is a day less lived in illusion. Ignorance is not a void to be feared. It is a mirror to be looked into. In that reflection, we see how much we cling to ideas, how desperately we defend our own image. But when we stop defending, when we stop pretending, something miraculous happens. We begin to listen. And in listening, we begin to learn. The Stoic does not seek to escape ignorance, but to transform it. He turns every I don't know into an invitation to grow. He lives not as a master of truth, but as a lifelong student of reality. He understands that the universe is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. And in that mystery, he finds serenity. He no longer fears the unknown. He calls it home. Wisdom, then, is not a state of knowing everything. It is a way of living, aware, honest, and at peace with uncertainty. To live wisely is to walk through the fog of the world with steady steps, not because you see the path, but because you trust your reason enough to take the next step. We are born ignorant, and we die ignorant. But between those two moments, we can choose to awaken, to see, to question, to wonder, to trade arrogance for curiosity and certainty for understanding. So, tonight, as silence returns, do not seek new answers. Seek better questions. Ask not, what do I know? but what do I see? Ask not, how do I appear? But what am I becoming? And above all, ask, am I willing to be wrong if it brings me closer to truth? If you can say yes, then you are already walking the path of the wise. For wisdom is not a destination, it is a practice, and every honest moment of ignorance brings you one step closer to understanding. So let go of the need to know. Let go of the pride of certainty. Sit quietly in the space between questions and answers. There, in that stillness, wisdom begins to speak, and its first words are always the same. I know that I know nothing.